been touched upon here by others, is to know that becoming and being a black Muslim in America did not just start with those of us in this room right here tonight. So we must know that it is not a new thing or some new phenomenon. I think we did talk about this, that there were others who came before us, who blazed the trails, and so we are still blazing trails as well. The other thing that I'd like you to know is to learn and appreciate where we are now and to appreciate what it took to get us here. Mind you, we still have a way to go, but we must appreciate where we are now and what it took to get us here. Also, in order to be able to appreciate where we are now, we also have, we are obligated to learn and know what came before us. So knowing our history will allow us to appreciate where we are today. And I'm still learning. One of the most important things that I think I always say to the young people that I work with here in Ibrahim Islamic Center and otherwise is that we must always remember the children. Okay? While it is important for us to study and seek knowledge about the deen for ourselves, we must be mindful that we must think about our children and grandchildren and their future as Muslims in America. Let us take the steps to educate them adequately in religious matters as well as non-religious matters. In our local community, Muslim community, let us stay connected socially. In other words, we need to stay connected. I mean, oftentimes we find, especially in a city like Houston, that's so widespread, and we have enclaves of Muslims all over the city, that we tend to isolate ourselves and not be connected socially at all. So I'm saying that we need to stay connected socially so that our families can get to know and grow to know each other. I think this is important for our children, thus creating trusting relationships between us. We must allow ourselves to truly operate in the concept of it takes a village to raise a child. And also, we must prepare our children to accept the torch with confidence when it is passed to them. And I say these things because in my generation, I don't speak for everyone in my generation, but I can say that one of the mistakes that I think that we made as first-generation Muslims is that we were so busy learning about the deen ourselves, and, going to classes, taking Arabic, learning fiqh, learning the seerah, learning whatever we can, just grabbing it all up, that oftentimes we neglected to think about, what about the children? This is a mistake that we made. I think Sister Clara Muhammad's school was one of the things that we have to take pride in as a community that did allow for our children to have a place to go and learn about our religion. But then individually, I think some of us who didn't send our children to the Sister Clara Muhammad School, we oftentimes failed to make sure that they were getting what they needed religiously, socially. And I'm going to say this last thing, that I always think about the fact that amongst the African American community, most times you will see that there is no pool of young women and men for our children to marry. We oftentimes have to go to other communities, out of state, out of city, and maybe even other countries. So I'm really, encouraging the young people today who have children to think about your children. Get to know your Muslim families so that when your daughter or your son gets ready to get married, you can have a family that you can say, hey, look, I have a daughter who needs a good husband. And you know that family. You know that family. You know that family, and you know that family's son, or vice versa. You know that family, and you know that family's daughter. And so you don't have to marry your children off to some family that you're just getting to know on the first go-round, and then voila, your daughter's married to a young man who's in a family that you know nothing about. So, these are the messages that I have to give you. And what does all of this have to do with us knowing our history as Muslims? I think basically we've said it all. That it just means that as African Americans who have experienced the discrimination, you can learn from us. You can learn to be resilient, as we have been through the years here in America. So look at our history, so that history is like knowing your history is like studying patterns. You study the pattern. What happened 100 years, 200, 300, 1,000 years ago, you will see it happening again. Maybe in just a different scenario, but the same old story, the SOS thing, different scenario, but it's the same behavior pattern. So this is why, this is what it all has to do with us today as Muslims.
MashaAllah. Jazakallah khair, Sister Sakinah, for helping us close the circle. One of the things that I always say is that typically with these type of events, when you're part of the group that's actually participating, a lot of times you get more out of it than the people that are listening. When you're the speaker, a lot of times you get more out of it than the audience. And they say that if you want to learn something, volunteer to teach it. If you want to learn something, volunteer to teach it. And Sister Sakinah really sparked a fire into something that I'm really passionate about based on my story and my experience, which is about role models. And she talked a lot about our children and the history that they are going to be creating and the impact that our history has on our children. You have some beautiful role models in this community. And if because of different walls, whether physical or psychological walls, you don't tap into that, then you're missing out. If you say to yourself, well, he can't be my role model because he doesn't look like me, he doesn't speak the same language I speak, then you're missing out, brothers and sisters. So with that, we're going to invite one of our brothers who again is a leader, a true leader in this community, to come up and close things out. Whether he knows it or not, he's a role model for me. I can tell Sister Sakinah flat out that she's one of my new role models because of some of the things that she said tonight. And I'm not going to read his bio because this brother's life and his legacy speaks for itself. He's a father. He's a brother. He's a businessman. And when I say he's a businessman, you can say anything and he will make money off of it. Anything. If you have something broken and you're about to throw it away, talk to Brother Keelan and he'll tell you how to make money out of that thing. So without further ado, we're going to ask Brother Keelan to come up here and close it out for us.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm going to be very brief. Thank you for that introduction. I don't know if I've gained the legacy portion of this, but what I can say is I have been a Muslim for 42 years. So, and I'm like, well, how old is he? He's 42. He was born a Muslim. And it's interesting when I meet different people, even African American descent. It's like, you Muslim? I was like, yeah, I'm Muslim. Like it's a secret. Like, how long you been Muslim? I say, 42 years? How long you been in America? I say, 42 years. Really? 42 years? I say, yes. I was born Muslim. And in actuality, everyone was born Muslim because it's the same ruh, the same spirit that Allah blew into each and every one of us. Now, the road our parents traveled us down, and that's through the mercy of Allah also, whether they be Christian, Jews, or whatever. Allah is the best knower. Just be a good, clean person. Allah takes care of the rest. In brief, in order for us to appreciate each and every one of our culture, way of being, nationality, ethnicity, we have to know the value of who we are. The significance of our history lends us that value. If you truly know your history and what you have lended to Allah's creation and obligation, then you know your value. I can appreciate an Indian, a Pakistani, and an African that much more if I know the value or the stake that they have had in obligation to creation. You can respect me more as an African American man if you know the stake that I have in obligation to improving creation. So oftentimes what the man who does not value you do is he tries to hide your history. If I hide your history, I devalue you, your stock is low, and nobody has a reason to invest in you. Who invests every now and then? We know the stock market, they take a bet on stocks that are not doing well, but that's a gambler. But for the most part, I'm going to invest in something that I think can grow. I'm going to invest in something that I can think be of benefit to me, society, as well as itself. So we have to look at it from that perception when we look at each other, and we wonder how we're going to work with each other. The recent climate in, I would say, in Islam, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and other forms of dysfunctional forms of supposed Islam, because I don't call it Islam, period. It shouldn't even be called Islam, but we know what we're dealing with. This is actually, believe it or not, a mercy from Allah. That's why we come together now, because we have to reinitiate bringing back the true spirit and not the fabricated spirit of Shaitan in order to change this narrative. So we were in the wrong in relation to not connecting with each other in our spirits, because we get caught up in race. When in actuality, it's our spirits as Muslims that should have brought us together a long time ago. So guess what? When Shaitan say, guess what? Look at all these Muslims disconnected because of race, where they live, their culture. He eat chicken, he eat rice, he eat fish. There's no way we can get along. Because mercy comes out of hell. Because when you catch so much hell, what do? You get insatiate, don't you? You have no choice but to bow down. At the end of the day, you tried everything possible to cure your hell, and you realize at the end of the day, I got to go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you put your head on that ground, don't you? So you can't say that mercy doesn't come from hell. That's a mercy from Allah that you caught the hell, to remember that you got to go back to Allah to come out of the hell. So this is what happened in our society, where we as Muslims had to realize that we had to come back together because Shaitan said they separated. So this is what I can create. I can create a dysfunctional Muslim, because those who are truly Muslims and live Islam the way it's supposed to be lived are divided. So when you divide it, that means you have gaps, meaning you're permeable. And when you're permeable, that's that fabricated roof that Shaitan is able to blow into that gray area. To whereas you don't know what, and if you're not studying the spirit of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you're in contemplation on whether I should go this way or this way. When you find yourself in that gray area, it's time to get in that Quran. It's time to start studying the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because you are not indoctrinated into the proper spirit. So we have to check ourselves. And that's what we're doing tonight. We're checking ourselves. Allah brought us here to evaluate our value. Regardless of what ethnicity you are, You have value because you have contributed as a Muslim to this creation to make it better. This was your job. Now we're getting back to purpose. African American and whoever.